So it's the first week of a new month, which usually means we'll be seeing some great Xbox news, and that's exactly what happened. Xbox dropped a bombshell on folks with over 70 new additions to their FPS Boost catalog of games. And I can't possibly cover them all in one video, so I decided I'd make a quick video and go over some of my favorite new additions to the list. It's kind of difficult to go through a list of 70 games and pick your favorites, but I've done my best to get it down to my top 5 new additions. So let's get started. So first up, I want to start with a game that often gets overlooked, and that's Gears of War 4. I think it goes without saying that it's probably the weakest entry in the mainline Gears of War series, but even the worst game in a series like Gears of War is still fantastic. It was basically a visual benchmark for the original Xbox One when it came out, and even more so for the Xbox One X when it received its enhanced patch. It's got top-tier visuals with classic Gears of War combat. All of this was fantastic back when it originally released and ran at 30 FPS, but now with FPS Boost you're looking at a rock-solid 60 FPS on both Series X and Series S. So if there was ever a time to play your way through the Gears of War series, now would be the time. And you'd be capping off your playthrough with Gears 4 and 5 both running at a steady 60 FPS. So this is fantastic news for fans of the series like myself, and honestly I might even go back and replay Gears 4. And up next is one of my favorite games of the entire last generation, and that's Far Cry 5. If you're a fan of the Far Cry series, then you know that there's nothing quite like exploring a Far Cry open world. And Far Cry 5's Hope County has been my favorite Far Cry world to date. I absolutely love that they brought Far Cry to America. Not to mention, it's got my favorite antagonist in the series. And I already know that it's kind of blasphemous to say that for a lot of Far Cry fans, because usually most Far Cry fans will tell you that the best antagonist is Voss from Far Cry 3. But for me personally, I honestly just think that Joseph Seed is the better antagonist. It's a game with an insane religious cult, tons of wild animals, and so much to do, all with a gorgeous backdrop of southwest Montana. It was an absolute joy to play on my Xbox One X, but now on Series X and Series S, it's available to play at a buttery smooth 60 FPS. If you like open world games with that Ubisoft formula of liberating outposts and fun little side quests, then this is definitely a game that you should check out. And actually, this leads me right into my next game on this list, which is Far Cry New Dawn. Now, unlike Far Cry 5, I haven't beaten New Dawn yet, so I can't really speak on the story or its antagonists, but I do know that it's an absolute blast to play, and it also takes place in a post-apocalyptic Hope County, Montana. So it's essentially the same map as Far Cry 5, just with, well, a more post-apocalyptic feeling. And just like Far Cry 5, the 60 FPS boost is available on Series X and Series S. And up next is Battlefield Hardline, and this is a title that often gets overlooked by people, and I'll be the first to admit that I'm no exception to this. Battlefield Hardline ditches the military aspect of Battlefield that a lot of people really love, and it goes for more of a cops versus robbers kind of feeling. And in that sense, it's definitely unique to the Battlefield series. It might not be people's favorite Battlefield, but it's definitely worth a shot, and now that it's running at 120 FPS, it'll play and feel better than it ever has on console. As of right now, recording this video, the game is still downloading on my Series X, but I'll for sure hop in and play a few games tonight just to check it out. And then I saved my personal favorite game for last, and that is Dying Light. And good lord, this game is fun. It's one of my favorite games from last gen. I mean, I put a ridiculous amount of time into this game. It's basically Dead Island, but with parkour, and now that you can do parkour and kill zombies in a buttery smooth 60 FPS on Xbox Series X, it just takes the game to a whole different level. It feels better than it's ever felt on console, and to this day, it's an absolute blast to play. Also, that auto HDR makes it look super crisp. So if you're looking to tide yourself over until we get more Dying Light 2 news, or even more news on that elusive Dead Island game, then this game will definitely keep you busy during that period of time. Oh, and speaking of Dead Island, there were a bunch of Dead Island games that also received FPS boosts to 60 FPS. But back to Dying Light, because this is the kind of game that I could play all night and not accomplish anything in the game. It's just fun jumping from rooftop to rooftop and drop-kicking zombies off of buildings. And with that covers my top 5 favorite games from this new batch of FPS boosted titles, but I wanted to give an honorable mention to a few games. And first up is Anthem. I, like many of you, had very high hopes for Anthem, but the lack of launch content and endgame really killed the game before it got a chance to be what it could be. And with the somewhat recent news of the relaunch of Anthem to be completely scrapped at this point, I think this is the closest we'll get to a next-gen update for Anthem. It's really a shame because this was one of my most hyped game releases of all of last gen, but I'll for sure be jumping in and flying around the world for just a bit for old time's sake. And another game I want to give a shout out to is Tomb Raider Definitive Edition. It was honestly one of my favorite games of the Xbox 360 generation, and soon after the launch of the Xbox One and PS4, it was upgraded to take advantage of the hardware and bring it closer in line with the PC level of detail. But the one thing that held it back was the frame rate cap at 30 FPS, but thankfully that is no longer an issue on both the Xbox Series X and the Xbox Series S. But that about wraps up this video. What are your thoughts? I mean, what games are you most looking forward to checking out in FPS Boost? Leave a comment below and tell me what you're thinking. Leave a like if you liked the video, and please remember to smash that subscribe button because it really helps out a lot. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.